Passage is the Children's Advocacy Center for El Paso and Teller counties. So our mission is focused on the hope and healing that we are able to provide a child who has made an outcry of abuse. We serve as a nexus, really coordinating all of those key entities involved in a child abuse investigation. And then our role is to be an advocate, answer questions, and help make sure that that process that a child and family have to go through, unfortunately, is keeping them as the focus, right? So, all our partners are fantastic. They all come at this with a different goal, right? Law enforcement, we need them to catch that bad guy. DHS needs to look after the child welfare. Medical's got their lens. So we're able to sit kind of with everybody and make sure we're keeping the kid and the family first and foremost. So certainly that child who has made what we call the bravest of statements, right? Like been so brave to come forward and tell someone they trust that someone's harming them or hurting them, right? So first and foremost, that's it. However, we know that for a child to be successful in their safety and their healing, they need caregivers who are prepared and can meet those needs. Kids can't act in isolation. And so we need to make sure that they're leaving here with a support system that has whatever might come up, and they're prepared. So we will actually be 28 years old in April, and we started very originally actually out of a program in the district attorney's office. But then within, I think, less than a year, we were able to form our own independent 501c3, created a board of directors. The building that we just moved from, we were there for most of our existence. And so through the years have had a number of wonderful community leaders come forward to support us as a board, and great staff members to help provide care for the kids and be part of that team. So it's kind of amazing to think, for 28 years we've had this service, and it's so exciting that we've reached this new really level up, if you will, in terms of how we're providing it. So we moved in October of last year. And we were able to, through a local bank loan, purchase this facility and fund the renovation. So it was a complete remodel. At one point you could see from one exterior wall to the other on the inside, and all redrawn carefully by an architect to really look at what Safe Passage needs, what the children and families need, and then what all our key partners who are in the building, what they all need to get their jobs done efficiently and effectively. So we moved in mid-October, and the rest of the partners and tenants moved in November. So here in our building, we have the Colorado Springs Police Department, so their whole child crimes unit works here. They moved out of the Police Operations Center and into this building. UC Health operates a forensic nurse clinic here, and so they have nurses available to meet with kids and families. We have the Family Center is our mental health partner, so they have clinicians on site for initial crisis stabilization all the way to ongoing long-term therapy. We have Kid Power. They are a prevention entity in our community that aligns with our mission, and every family that comes through Safe Passage gets a referral to Kid Power. Department of Human Services also has the ability to work here, so their investigators are very often involved in our cases and ensuring safety. And then, of course, the Safe Passage team, which provides advocacy and interviews and resources to kids and families. Yeah, it's somewhat like goes with the model, right? Because, for example, Safe Passage, our interviewers, they conduct interviews for kids that are anybody that doesn't live in Colorado Springs. So we're assisting with all of El Paso County's interviews, Fountain, Monument, Teller counties, everybody else, right? And so we're partners with all those folks, as well as Fort Carson, kind of you name it, and we're there when it comes to the supporting the safety of kids, right? So it almost gets tough to draw the, like who should be here, because really we'd love everyone to be, but we still have I think a very flexible and serviceable model to where those other agencies can come and go and they still feel part of the team. Yeah, so Safe Passage as the nonprofit at the table, we're going to, like I said earlier, kind of be that nexus, right? So when a child makes a disclosure of abuse, tells a mandated reporter who picks up the phone and connects that child and that family with an investigative agency, law enforcement usually, sometimes Department of Human Services, that entity is going to get in contact with Safe Passage. And then we're going to get scheduled, a forensic interview. So that's one of the pieces we provide, where we're talking to a kiddo about what may or may not have happened. It's audio and video recorded. The goal is that the child is telling that story one time, right? We understand the trauma that can be inflicted by having to repeat, such a raw disclosure over and over again. So that's very central to the Advocacy Center model overall, right? Is that that's a one chance that all those team partners who need the different pieces of information are all going to hear that kiddo at once, right? So we're providing that. We're also providing advocacy. So what that means is, as a caregiver is walking through this time of uncertainty, fear, gosh, a whole range of emotions, right? They've got an ally with them who can help to answer anything from, what do I do? He was paying the grocery bills, or I don't feel safe at home. I need to find somewhere else to be. Where do I get mental health referral? Where can I, where is a clinician I can talk? So it is a very customized experience, right, to whatever that child and that family need in that moment. And we're also going to provide follow-up. So we understand that in that moment, there's a lot of information and a lot of just processing. So we will definitely reach back out within a few days of a visit and say, what can we answer? What can we go over? Victims' compensation forms to help cover loss of wages for having to take time off work to come here. So it's really kind of a whole milieu that we have that we offer. On the more administrative end, I guess you can say, we're greeting the families as they come in. We're making sure that the kiddos are supervised while they're here. So, a caregiver is going to go talk to that investigative team, and the kiddo doesn't have to be part of that conversation. They're cared for by an advocate or an intern who's playing with them either in our playroom or getting them a snack in the lobby, so that, again, they're feeling like their comforts and their needs are prominent and met first. Yeah, success again is very individualized, right? For one child, it is knowing that they're going to go home to a place that they're safe again. Sometimes we get really lucky and we're able to see all the way from that first initial outcry all the way through to prosecution, right? So, you're able to look at a kiddo who, said that something was happening to them. We were able to put the investigative team together that made sure that that person, that alleged perpetrator, no longer had access to that kiddo. And then they're able to go home with, a grandma who is believing and trusting, gets that kiddo to mental health so that they begin to kind of process and unpack, remember that they're not at fault, right, for what occurred to them. And then the case ends up being, in the judicial system, and so we can see that there's going to be some justice and some outcome for that perpetrator, and that child knows that the system is holding accountability. Absolutely. So we do rely on community volunteers to help interact and care for the kiddos while they're here. It's a little bit of a barrier, it can be, because it's pretty much an 8 to 5 Monday through Friday type of engagement, but gosh, the difference that you can make for a kiddo. We ask that volunteers sign up for 2 4-hour shifts a month. Of course, they're background checked and trained, but they have a chance to, if you think about what the kiddo's going through and everything that they're facing, you get to give that one-on-one attention, play a board game, read a book, kind of learn about them, kind of keep everything real high level and like, hey, we're here, can I get you some goldfish? Do you want a juice? Making sure that everything that they need is taken care of while they're here in what is really one of the most important days of their life. Pretty powerful role. So the best way is our website, which is safepassagecac.org. And so we'll have information there on volunteer opportunities, upcoming events, and donation opportunities as well. So certainly, being a 501c3, we have needs, ongoing to ensure that our services are ready for the community. As you mentioned earlier, we are in a capital campaign to help make sure that we don't have a mortgage on the loan. And so I'm pleased to say we're about 80% of the way there. So it's we only started the campaign just over a year ago. So the outpouring of support has been great, but we want to close that up and get that done, so that we can focus all of our efforts on the body of work here, right? Donation-wise, gosh, we love, of course, all items new, but snacks, so if something that would, if it would work in your workplace to do a little snack drive, juice box drive, somebody picks up, a bunch at Costco, we love that. And then when children finish their whole visit here, so they're, all done and they're about to head out the door, they are afforded just something fun to take with them. So depending on their age, it could be a toy, a gift card to Dutch Brothers or Starbucks for the older kiddos. They seem to enjoy those. So we're always seeking community donations to fill that closet, if you will. Also backpacks with brand new clothes. So it does occur, unfortunately, where a kiddo is not able to return to their home after their visit here. And so they, left without a change of socks and shoes and everything. So we try to be very well stocked with a range of, sizes and, weather appropriate items, right? So that we make sure that they leave with something. Yeah, so, I think we're all still in the post-COVID pivot, right? As most agencies are. And so one piece that's actually stayed and taken off in quite a good way is clay shoot. So we found a really good home with folks that love that as a sport. And so we'll do that annually in November. And folks get teams together and, go out and have a good afternoon, all for a good cause. And that seems to be something people really like. We do always participate in Colorado Gives Day, which is an easy, pretty painless way, right, to help to support us. But in terms of other events, we're just sort of still trying to figure out how and when to re-engage with that. We know the uptick is coming. So the most recent statistics that came out last week are telling us that we are nearing pre-pandemic levels with reports to the state child abuse hotline. The biggest finding in those statistics is that the biggest section of increase were from schools. So we had said all along, when kiddos were away from those mandated reporters and specifically those school personnel, that we knew that their safety net was not there. In addition to being locked at home with someone that might be very stressed and anxious and not able to access their own resources, right? So really a perfect storm, unfortunately. And gosh, even when kids started to go back to school, it was like 1 foot in, 1 foot out, right? So you think about what kids need to be able to tell something happened to them, and they really need some sense of safety and surety, and they need connection. And I think that all of us can say that's taken a long time to regain as we kind of learn to live with the pandemic, right? And so we are seeing somewhat of an increase back now that kids are back more routinely in school, and I think feel ready to to share. But it's predicted that this could be a longitudinal effect, because we know that kids, it takes time for kids to feel safe enough to say something. Yeah, so we actually just had our strategic planning session 2 weeks ago, so our eyes are definitely toward that now that we've achieved this special space for our kids and families of the community. So what we're really eyeing is, I guess, like an enhancing of what we're already doing, right? And in two particular areas. The first of which is making sure that every professional that comes in contact with kids in this way knows we're here. And we just really haven't been afforded the bandwidth before to be able to have that consistent outreach and awareness. So, no matter which law enforcement agency you might be living near, no matter where you are, that there's knowledge and awareness that we are what's on the other end of picking up the phone to make a report. And so that's a really big goal, because we do feel like there's probably kids being missed in the community. We certainly have the larger agencies covered, but we want to just make sure that that's cohesive and consistent. The other piece is related to the mental health growth. So having a co-located mental health partner on site was a huge milestone and big step. That and the nurses being on site were the two biggest gifts I think that we've achieved out of this. Now we'd like to take that even more so, right, and really enhance what we know about trauma-informed care for kids who have suffered abuse, related to attachment work. How do we really, I guess, make sure the expertise is there in-house, which it is, but we've got to have more of it, and then be able to forward face that. So getting to the point where we're providing, instruction in the community, right? Being able to help create a more trauma-informed community across El Paso and Teller County. I think the thing, knowing a little bit about the work that your group is engaged in, I think the reminder that experiencing abuse has, lasting, impact. It does not define someone, but it greatly changes someone, right? And so we know that the way to create healthy outcomes is to be connected to resources, right? It could be a very scary thing to tell that something happened. It can be very scary for a family to come forward and say, this is happening in my family. But what is scarier is what the outcome would be if it isn't reported and it isn't faced. And knowing that there are resources in our community, from achieving the safety to then the ongoing mental health healing, right? Unless someone is brave enough to stand up and say something, it's just a real uphill battle.